The kitten lay still, its tiny body barely moving, and the girl's heart raced with fear. She had done everything she could, kept it warm, fed it, made it comfortable, but now it seemed as if all her efforts were in vain. She stared at the kitten, tears welling in her eyes, unable to understand why it wasn't responding. The soft, fragile creature that had once mewed for her attention now seemed so far away, its little chest barely rising. She whispered its name, but it didn't stir. Her mind raced with terrible thoughts. What if it was too late? What if she couldn't save it after all? The world outside seemed distant, as if it had forgotten to care, leaving her alone with her helplessness and the tiny, still form of the kitten. Chapter 1. A tiny bundle in the rain. The rain drizzled from the gray afternoon sky, painting the streets in a shimmering, watery glow. Anna, a 10-year-old girl with a backpack almost as big as she was, walked home from school, her shoes splashing through small puddles. She loved rainy days. They made everything feel softer, quieter, like the whole world had slowed down. But today, the usual comfort of the rain didn't reach her. She felt uneasy, though she didn't know why. As she turned onto the narrow street leading to her apartment, she noticed something unusual on the sidewalk ahead. A small, soaked cardboard box sat abandoned near a lamppost, sagging under the weight of the water. It looked like it had been there for a while, forgotten by everyone who had passed. Anna hesitated. People always told her not to touch things left on the street. It could be garbage, or worse, something dangerous. But as she stepped closer, she saw something that made her breath catch in her throat. Scrawled in smudged, shaky handwriting on the side of the box were 2 words. "Take me." A chill ran down her spine, though she wasn't sure if it was from fear or excitement. Who had left this box here? And why? She leaned in cautiously, her heart pounding. The box trembled slightly. No, not the box, something inside it. Anna swallowed hard and reached out with one hand, carefully peeling back the damp, curling cardboard flap. Inside, curled up in a shivering, drenched ball of fur, was a tiny kitten. It was impossibly small, its fur plastered to its frail body by the rain. Its ears were flattened, its whiskers drooping. The kitten blinked up at her with wide, terrified eyes, its little body trembling violently from the cold. Anna felt a sharp pang in her chest. Someone had left it here, alone, in the rain. Had they abandoned it on purpose? Had they hoped someone like her would find it? Or had it been sitting here for hours, unnoticed and forgotten? She bit her lip, glancing around. The street was nearly empty. A few people hurried past, their heads down, umbrellas shielding them from the rain. No one seemed to care about the tiny, helpless creature in the box. Anna wanted to pick it up. Every instinct in her body told her to scoop it into her arms and run home. But she hesitated. Her parents. They wouldn't let her keep it. She knew that without even asking. They had always said no pets. Too much responsibility, too much mess, too much trouble. If she walked through the front door holding a wet, stray kitten, they would tell her to take it somewhere else. But how could she just leave it? The kitten let out a weak, pitiful meow, so soft she barely heard it over the rain. Her resolve hardened. She couldn't leave it. Anna crouched down and gently reached into the box, her fingers brushing against its soaked fur. The kitten flinched at first, pressing itself into the corner, as if expecting something bad to happen. But when she didn't grab it roughly, when her touch remained soft and patient, it slowly, cautiously, turned its tiny head toward her. "It's okay," she whispered. "I won't hurt you." She could feel it trembling beneath her fingers. It was so light, so fragile. Carefully, she scooped it up, cradling it against her chest. Its fur was cold, wet, and smelled faintly of something sour, but she didn't care. The kitten curled up in her hands, too exhausted to fight anymore. For a moment, she stood there, holding the tiny creature, feeling the weight of her decisions settle on her shoulders. She knew she was making a choice that could get her in trouble. She knew she was taking on something big, something her parents wouldn't approve of. But she also knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let this kitten die alone in the rain. Anna turned and hurried down the street, tucking the kitten under her jacket to shield it from the cold. And then, "Hey, what are you doing?" A voice behind her made her freeze. She spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. A boy, a little older than her, stood under a bus stop awning, watching her with narrowed eyes. He had messy dark hair and a heavy-looking backpack slung over one shoulder. Anna's fingers tightened around the kitten. Had he seen her take it? Did he think she was stealing it? Or worse, did he know who had left it there? To be continued. Chapter 2. The First Difficulties. Anna clutched the tiny kitten close to her chest, feeling its frail body tremble beneath her jacket. She could feel its rapid heartbeat, a faint flutter against her own, and she knew she had to keep it warm. The rain still drizzled down, and she walked as fast as she could without jostling the kitten too much. Her heart pounded, not just from the rush of saving the kitten, but from the fear of what would happen when she got home. Her mother would say no. She could already hear it. "Anna, we've talked about this. No pets. We can't take care of an animal. It's not our responsibility." And yet, the kitten was hers now. She had found it, helpless and alone. If she left it, who else would take care of it? She had no choice. Trying to be as quiet as possible, she slipped into the apartment building, her sneakers squeaking against the tiled floor. The warmth of the lobby was a relief, but she didn't have time to enjoy it. She hurried up the stairs, her mind racing with a plan. Could she hide the kitten in her room? Just for a little while? Long enough to warm it up, feed it, figure something out? She reached the apartment door and hesitated, taking a deep breath. Then, carefully shifting the kitten to one arm, she unlocked the door and slipped inside. The smell of dinner filled the air, something warm and spicy. She could hear her mother humming in the kitchen. The television murmured from the living room, where her father was probably watching the news. She took one step forward. "Anna, is that you?" Her mother's voice. Anna panicked. "Yeah, I'm home," she called back, her voice a little too high. She quickly zipped up her jacket to conceal the kitten completely. It let out the tiniest squeak, but thankfully, the noise of the TV drowned it out. She made a beeline for her room, her pulse racing. Almost there, almost. "Wait a second, young lady." Her mother's voice stopped her in her tracks. "Why are you walking like that?" Anna froze. "Like what?" "Like you're hiding something." Her mother stepped into the hallway, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. She narrowed her eyes, then frowned. "Anna, why is your jacket moving?" Anna looked down. The tiny kitten had shifted, pressing its head against her chest. "Oh no." Her mother's eyes widened. "Anna, what's in your jacket?" For a split second, Anna thought about lying. Maybe she could say it was a stuffed animal? A bag of something? But then the kitten made the decision for her. With a weak, pitiful meow, it wriggled slightly, and a small, damp paw poked out from under the zipper. Silence. Then, "Anna," her mother's voice turned sharp. "What did you bring into this house?" Anna sat at the kitchen table, her hands clenched into fists on her lap. The kitten was wrapped in a towel on the table, its tiny body barely visible. Her mother stood across from her, arms crossed. "Anna," she sighed. "You know we can't keep a pet." "But Mom." "No buts. It's not our responsibility." "But he was all alone. Someone just left him out in the rain." Her mother's expression softened, just for a second, but then she shook her head. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but we can't take care of a cat. It's too much work." "I'll take care of him," Anna pleaded. "I promise. You won't even notice he's here." Her mother sighed again, rubbing her temples. Anna looked down at the kitten, who had stopped trembling but still looked so small, so helpless. If she put him back outside now, he wouldn't survive. She knew that. "Please," Anna whispered. "Just for one night. Just to warm him up and feed him. Please, Mom." Her mother hesitated. She glanced at the kitten again, at its tiny body curled up in the towel. Anna held her breath. Finally, Her mother exhaled, shaking her head. One night. That's it. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do. Anna's heart leaped with relief. Thank you, Mom. But you're feeding him, cleaning up after him, and keeping him in your room. Understood. Understood. She scooped the kitten up carefully, cradling him close. His little body was still so cold. But he was safe now. At least for tonight. That night, Anna made a small bed for the kitten in an old shoebox lined with soft towels. She placed it next to her own bed and lay down, watching him. For the first time, she allowed herself to think about the future. Maybe, just maybe, she could convince her parents to let him stay. Maybe she could prove she was responsible enough. She drifted off to sleep with that hopeful thought. But in the middle of the night, she woke suddenly. A strange noise filled the room. A weak, rasping sound. A tiny, strained whimper. Anna shot up in bed, heart hammering. The kitten was struggling to breathe. To be continued. Chapter 3. The Rescue Mission. The next morning, Anna woke up to the soft, fluttering sound of rain against her window. It was early, still too dark outside to tell whether the day would be as gloomy as the one before. Her first thought was of the kitten. She bolted upright in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. The soft, warm bundle she had made for it the night before was still nestled next to her own pillow. But something felt wrong. She reached over, gently pulling back the towel. The kitten barely moved. It lay in the middle of the shoebox, its tiny chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Its eyes were closed, and its fur still looked damp, despite the warmth she had tried to provide. The little body seemed so small and fragile, like a piece of dust caught in a storm. Anna's stomach twisted with panic. "Come on, little one," she whispered, lifting it gently in her hands. "Please be okay." But the kitten didn't respond. It barely stirred, its tiny body limp in her palms. She could feel her heart racing, thudding in her chest, but she didn't know what to do. Without thinking, Anna jumped out of bed and rushed to her computer. She had to find answers. She had to save it. Her hands shook as she typed frantically. What to do when a kitten is cold and won't eat. The screen filled with pages of advice, veterinary blogs, animal rescue forums, and websites about kitten care. First, warm the kitten up. Gently wrap it in a towel and place it near a heat source, like a warm water bottle. Anna nodded, already doing that as she read. She carefully placed the kitten back into its little makeshift bed, tucking a soft towel around its tiny body and pressing it gently against the warm side of her heating pad. She scrolled down the page. Next, offer food. If the kitten is weak, you can try kitten formula or a mixture of warm milk and water. Anna frowned. She didn't have any kitten formula. What else could she feed it? She glanced around her room and grabbed a small spoon. Maybe she could try feeding it warm milk. She carefully dripped some of the milk onto the spoon and offered it to the kitten's mouth. But the kitten didn't respond. It lay there, unmoving, as though it had given up. Anna felt tears sting her eyes. "Please, please don't give up," she whispered. "I can't lose you." She tried again, gently massaging the kitten's tiny throat, coaxing it to drink, but it didn't work. The kitten wouldn't eat. Frustration and fear built up inside her. She stood up, pacing the room. What was she missing? There had to be something more she could do. Her mind raced as she thought about her options. Could she call a vet? Could she take it to the animal shelter? But that was the last thing she wanted. Her mom had already made it clear that the kitten wasn't staying long-term. If she called a vet, they would just tell her to bring it to a shelter. And that would mean goodbye. Her heart ached at the thought. Anna sat back down on her bed, staring at the kitten. Think, think, think. And then it came to her. Her grandmother. Grandma had lived on a farm when she was younger. She had always told Anna stories about taking care of animals. How she had raised stray kittens, how she had healed sick animals with herbs and natural remedies. Anna had learned about basic animal care from her grandmother. But could Grandma really help with something this serious? Anna bit her lip. Her grandmother would know what to do. She couldn't waste any more time. Without another thought, she grabbed her jacket and scooped up the kitten. She didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but it felt like the only option. She rushed out of the apartment, heart racing, the kitten still limp in her hands. The cold air hit her face as she sprinted toward her grandmother's house, a few blocks down the street. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. She had to be quick. The kitten couldn't wait much longer. As she approached her grandmother's house, Anna's breath came in short gasps. She knocked frantically on the door, hoping her grandmother was home. "Grandma," she called, her voice tight with urgency. The door creaked open, and her grandmother stood there, looking at her with concern. "Anna, what's wrong?" Anna held out the kitten. "I need help. It's not eating. It's so cold. Please, Grandma, can you help it?" Her grandmother took the kitten in her hands, her face softening with worry as she examined it closely. "Come in, darling," she said gently. "Let me take a look." Anna followed her inside, her heart thumping with hope. She had done the right thing. She knew it. But as Grandma turned to the kitchen counter, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. To be continued. Chapter 4. The first steps to recovery. Grandma gently cradled the tiny kitten in her hands, her weathered fingers stroking its fur as she examined it carefully. Anna stood by, anxious and waiting for guidance. Grandma had always been a calm presence, but even she seemed concerned. "All right, darling," Grandma said after a long pause, her voice warm but firm. "We need to get some food into him." Anna nodded, feeling the weight of the situation press on her chest. The kitten was so small, so fragile. It seemed like such a tiny thing to hold so much worry. Grandma moved to a nearby shelf, pulling out a small glass jar filled with what looked like powder. She mixed it with warm water, creating a makeshift formula that she'd used for years when caring for sick animals. "First, we need to make sure he's warm enough to drink," Grandma explained. "Cold kittens won't eat, no matter how much you try. So, we need to wrap him up nice and snug." Anna helped, gently adjusting the little kitten in her grandmother's arms, making sure its body was wrapped in a soft towel while a small, heated rice bag sat beneath it. "Now, we'll try the milk," Grandma said, dipping her finger into the warm mixture. "Gently, just a little at a time. Let him lick it off." Anna watched with bated breath as Grandma slowly brought her finger toward the kitten's tiny mouth. The kitten's nose twitched, and for a moment, Anna thought it might refuse, just like before. But then, something changed. The kitten opened its mouth just a little and gave a tentative lick. Anna's heart soared. He's drinking." Grandma smiled, her eyes twinkling. "He's just a little weak. It'll take time, but he's fighting." Anna's hands shook with relief. It was working. Slowly but surely, the kitten was beginning to respond. For the next hour, Grandma and Anna took turns feeding the kitten, offering him tiny sips of milk. Slowly, the little creature began to drink more eagerly, his little body starting to show signs of life again. Anna's eyes filled with tears of joy. She had saved him. She had really done it. The kitten curled up in her lap after he had eaten his fill, his tiny body no longer shivering, though still far too small and frail. But the change was undeniable. Grandma watched Anna, a knowing smile on her lips. "He'll need more care, but this is a good start. You're doing just fine." Anna beamed at her grandmother's praise. She had never felt prouder, never felt so connected to something so small. But now came the hard part. She knew that, no matter how much Grandma had helped, the kitten couldn't stay here forever. He would need to go back home with her. But what would she tell her mom? She could already imagine her mother's voice, stern and disapproving. "Anna, we talked about this. He's a stray. You can't keep him." But the kitten couldn't go back out there. He was just starting to get better. He was her responsibility now, and she couldn't bear the thought of him being taken away. "Grandma," Anna said softly, looking down at the kitten. "What do I do now? How do I make Mom understand?" Her grandmother considered this for a moment, her hand resting gently on the kitten's warm body. "You have to show her. Show her how much you care for him, how hard you're working to help him. If you can do that, she might see that he belongs with you." Anna thought about this. It sounded difficult, but she was willing to try. She had come this far, and she couldn't give up now. "Thank you, Grandma," Anna whispered. Her grandmother smiled. "Now, get him settled, and you can take him home. Just remember, if he's going to stay, you'll have to be the one to care for him. You'll have to be patient, Anna. It won't be easy." Anna nodded, already making a mental list of everything she needed to do to keep the kitten healthy. It wasn't just about food, it was about love, care, and responsibility. She could do this. But then, just as Anna was about to gather her things and head back home with the kitten, something happened. The little creature, who had been so quiet and calm, suddenly began to mew softly, its voice weak but persistent. It stretched out one tiny paw, reaching toward Anna's chest. Anna froze. The kitten looked up at her, its eyes wide, filled with what seemed like an unspoken plea. It was as if it were asking her not to go. Anna's heart clenched in her chest. To be continued. Chapter 5. The Secret Plan. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that she had to protect the kitten, even if it meant breaking the rules. Her heart told her it wasn't time to let him go yet, not when he was so fragile and weak. He needed more care, more time, and she was the only one who could give him that. The decision was made. For the next few days, Anna would keep the kitten hidden. She would nurse him back to health in secret, waiting until he was strong enough to face the world outside. She couldn't let him go to a shelter now, not when he was just starting to trust her. She was scared of what would happen if her mom found out, but the thought of the kitten being taken away was even scarier. Each day after school, Anna rushed straight home, making sure to keep her backpack tucked tightly against her side, as though she were carrying a secret treasure. Once inside, she'd go straight to her room, where she had set up a cozy little nest for the kitten in the corner of her closet. She kept him in a small, quiet corner, away from the window where anyone could see, and away from the prying eyes of her mom. The kitten, whom she had started to think of as her little miracle, was doing better. He had gained some strength in the past few days and was now eating regularly, licking his tiny bowl clean every time. Anna had even noticed that his fur was starting to dry out, and he no longer shivered in her arms. But despite the progress, he still looked vulnerable, his wide eyes filled with uncertainty every time someone approached him. Anna knew it would take more time before he fully trusted her, and before she could fully trust herself to care for him. But she wasn't about to give up. Anna spent hours every evening with him, gently rubbing his soft fur, making sure he was comfortable, and talking to him in a quiet, soothing voice. She even tried to play with him, using a piece of string, but he was still too weak to show much interest. When it came to names, Anna found herself stuck. She had tried to think of something cute, something fitting, but nothing seemed quite right. Maybe something like Mr. Whiskers? Or Snowball, she mused one evening as she sat beside him, scratching behind his ears. But nothing clicked. Then one day, her best friend, Mia, came over to visit. Anna had asked her to stop by after school, but she had to be careful. She couldn't let her mom catch on. "Hey, you still have that kitten, right?" Mia asked as soon as she walked into Anna's room. Anna nodded, her heart pounding a little. "Yeah, he's doing better now. A little weak still, but he's eating." Mia walked over to the closet and peeked inside. "Ah, he's so cute. What are you going to name him?" Anna paused. She hadn't told anyone else about the kitten yet, and now that Mia was here, she felt a bit nervous. "I don't know," she admitted. "I can't think of the right name." Mia grinned. "Well, you found him under a storm, right? What about Zodic, like rain?" "It would be perfect." Anna's eyes lit up at the suggestion. "Zodic," she whispered, testing the sound. It felt right. It was simple and sweet, just like the little kitten. "Zodic," Anna repeated with a smile. "I love it." "Thanks, Mia." But as Mia reached down to pet the kitten, Anna's joy was short-lived. A faint sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. It was her mom. Anna froze. She had to act fast. Quickly, she grabbed Mia's hand and pulled her away from the closet, shutting the door behind them. She smiled nervously. Don't say anything about him, okay? I'm not ready for Mom to know. Mia looked at her with wide eyes, surprised by the request but understanding nonetheless. Okay, I won't say anything. But just as they began to settle into the room, they heard a faint knock at the door. Anna's heart skipped a beat. Anna, can I come in? Her mom's voice called from the other side. Anna's breath caught in her throat. She tried to hide the panic in her voice as she called back. Just a minute, Mom. Mia shot Anna a worried look, but Anna just shook her head, trying to keep calm. The door creaked open, and Anna's mom stepped inside. She was carrying a laundry basket, and her eyes scanned the room with an expression that Anna couldn't quite read. Anna's mom paused by the closet, and for a split second, Anna swore her mother's gaze lingered just a little too long on the door. Anna, have you changed something in here? Her mom asked. Anna felt her stomach drop. To be continued. Chapter 6. The reveal. Anna's heart was pounding in her chest, her palms sweaty with anxiety as her mom walked further into the room. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The sound of her footsteps seemed to echo loudly in Anna's ears, and every second felt like an eternity. Anna tried to act casual, but it was nearly impossible. She didn't want her mom to see the kitten. She wasn't ready to explain everything, especially when her mom had been so firm about not keeping him. But before she could think of anything to say, her mom paused in front of the closet, her eyes narrowing slightly. Anna, her mom said, her tone a little too calm for Anna's comfort. What's in there? Anna froze, her mind racing for an excuse. She couldn't lie, not to her mom. I wanted to show you something, Anna said, trying to sound casual, though her voice trembled. Her mom raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything. Slowly, Anna stepped forward, opening the closet door just enough for her mom to peer inside. The kitten was curled up in his little nest, sleeping peacefully. For a long moment, there was silence. Anna held her breath, waiting for the explosion of anger or disappointment that she had feared. But to her surprise, her mom didn't yell. She didn't look furious at all. In fact, there was something else in her eyes, concern. Anna, her mom said softly, crouching down to get a better look at the kitten. Where did you find him? Anna sighed in relief, but her voice wavered as she spoke. I found him outside, in the rain. He was all alone and scared. I couldn't just leave him there. Her mom's expression softened, and she knelt down beside Anna, peering at the tiny creature. You know, I'm not sure I agree with you keeping him here, she said quietly. But I can see you really care for him. Anna swallowed, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. But she wasn't entirely out of the woods yet. She had to make sure her mom understood. Please, Mom, Anna said, her voice almost pleading. Just a little longer. I promise he'll get better, and then we can figure out what to do. Please. Her mom took a deep breath, looking at the kitten with a mixture of concern and reluctant acceptance. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Anna held her breath, praying that her mom would agree. Finally, her mom sighed and rubbed her temples. All right, she said quietly. You can keep him for now. But only until he's better, Anna. Once he's healthy, we'll have to figure out what to do. Anna's heart soared with relief. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Her mom smiled, though it was a weary smile. Only until he's well, Anna. And no more surprises like this, okay? Anna nodded vigorously. She couldn't believe it. Her mom had said yes. She had the time she needed to help the kitten recover. But just as she began to relax, the kitten stirred. He let out a soft, raspy sneeze, and then another. Anna frowned, feeling a sudden wave of panic. The kitten's nose twitched, and he sneezed again, this time harder. Her mom frowned, leaning forward to get a better look. Oh dear, she said, concern lining her voice. That doesn't sound good. He might have a cold. or something worse? Anna's heart sank. She had been so focused on keeping him hidden that she hadn't noticed he was starting to get sick again. Her mom stood up, her face set in determination. We'll have to take him to the vet. I'm not taking any chances with his health. Anna's eyes widened. The vet. But her mom held up a hand, silencing her. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. But right now, we need to make sure he's not getting worse. Anna bit her lip. She didn't want to go to the vet. Not yet. She didn't want anyone to take Zodic away from her. But her mom was already moving toward the phone, dialing a number for the vet. Anna's mind raced. What if they couldn't save him? What if the vet decided he was beyond help? She couldn't lose him. Not now. Not when he had just started to trust her. As her mom made the appointment, Anna walked over to the kitten, gently cradling him in her arms. He looked up at her, his big eyes filled with confusion and a little fear. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, Zodic, Anna whispered. I promise. But just as she spoke, the kitten sneezed again, even harder this time. To be continued. Chapter 7. The visit to the vet. Anna's stomach churned as her mom drove them to the vet's office. She was trying to stay calm, but every passing minute felt like an eternity. What if the doctor said that Zodic needed to be taken away? What if he wasn't going to be okay? The thought of losing him, after everything she had done to protect him, made her feel sick to her core. Sitting in the back seat, Anna carefully cradled Zodic in her arms. He was still so small and fragile, nestled into the blanket she had wrapped around him. He had stopped sneezing, but Anna could feel the heat radiating off him. His body was still fighting something. Her mom glanced at her in the rearview mirror. It'll be okay, Anna. We're just making sure he's all right. But Anna wasn't so sure. She had read enough online to know that animals with conditions like Zodic's often didn't make it. She just had to hold on to hope, no matter what. When they arrived at the clinic, Anna felt her nerves spike. The waiting room smelled faintly of disinfectant and pet shampoos, a familiar but sterile scent. There were a few other animals in the room, dogs with wagging tails, cats mewing softly, but Anna couldn't focus on them. All her attention was on Zodic. The receptionist called them up to the counter. Anna, right? Just bring him right in. Anna took a deep breath and followed her mom down the hallway. The sound of paws clicking against the tiles made her even more anxious. Finally, they reached an exam room, and the vet, a middle-aged woman with a kind smile, stepped inside. Hello, Anna, the vet said, her voice warm and reassuring. What's this little guy's name? Zodic, Anna said softly, her voice trembling slightly. She looked at the kitten, who was still curled up in her arms, looking small and helpless. Well, let's take a look at him then, the vet said, gently taking the kitten from Anna's hands and placing him on the exam table. Anna watched as the vet examined Zodic with practiced care. She checked his temperature, listened to his chest, and gently probed his little body for any signs of injury or infection. Anna's heart beat loudly in her chest. What was she supposed to do if the news was bad? What if the vet said he was beyond help? After a long moment, the vet straightened up and looked at Anna. Well, Anna, you've done the right thing by bringing him in. Zodic is underweight, and he's a little dehydrated, but it's nothing too serious. He's just suffering from hypothermia and a mild cold. He was probably abandoned in the rain for a while, which is why he was so weak. Anna let out a shaky breath of relief, but she still felt uncertain. So he'll be okay. The vet smiled, though her eyes were kind but firm. With some care, he should be just fine. We'll give him some medication for the cold, and we'll need to make sure he stays warm and hydrated. He's a lucky little guy. He wouldn't have survived without someone looking after him. Anna's heart swelled with pride. She had saved him. All her efforts, all the sleepless nights, had paid off. The vet handed Anna a small prescription and a bag with some medicine and vitamins for Zodic. Here's a treatment plan. You'll need to give him these tablets twice a day, and make sure he gets plenty of fluids and warmth. His body's still very weak, but he'll improve over time. Anna nodded eagerly, already making a mental note of the schedule. She could do this. She would do this. She was going to help Zodic get better, no matter how long it took. "Do you have any questions?" the vet asked, her voice gentle as she smiled at Anna. Anna hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Will he be okay if I take care of him at home? I mean, I'll do everything he needs, but what if something happens?" The vet placed a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder. "You're doing the most important thing right now, caring for him with love and patience. That's exactly what he needs. You'll be his best medicine. But if anything changes, or you notice he's not improving, don't hesitate to bring him back." Anna smiled, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "I will. Thank you." As they made their way out of the clinic, Anna's thoughts swirled. The relief she felt was overwhelming, but so was the responsibility. Now more than ever, she knew she had to stay committed. Zodic had been through so much already. He was depending on her. When they got home, Anna set up a special place for Zodic to rest. Near the heater, wrapped in soft blankets, with a bowl of water and the prescribed food within reach. She followed the vet's instructions carefully, giving him his medicine and keeping him as warm as possible. The hours seemed to pass slowly, but little by little, Anna could see the difference. Zodic's eyes seemed brighter, and he wasn't shivering as much. But just as she began to relax, the vet's words echoed in her mind. "He's a lucky little guy. He wouldn't have survived without someone looking after him." Anna couldn't help but wonder, what if she hadn't found him? What if she had walked past, just like everyone else had? Would he have survived on his own? The thought made her shiver. She was so glad she had saved him. But she couldn't take this responsibility lightly. She had been his lifeline, and she would continue to be. To be continued. Chapter 8. Trust and Friendship. The days passed in a steady rhythm, and each one felt a little brighter than the last. Zodic was becoming more and more active, his little paws dancing across the floor with newfound energy. Anna could hardly believe how far he'd come. When she first found him, weak and shivering, she had feared that his chances of survival were slim. But now, every time she looked at him, her heart swelled with pride. He had become a little ball of energy, chasing after toys with abandon, rolling around on the floor, and playfully batting at Anna's fingers as she gently dangled a string in front of him. His small meows echoed through the house as he darted around, eager to explore every corner of his new world. Anna loved watching him. It was as though the kitten was discovering life for the first time, and she was there to witness every moment. But as much as she loved seeing him so healthy, Anna had started to realize just how much work it took to care for him. Feeding him 3 times a day, making sure he always had fresh water, and cleaning up after him had become a routine that filled her days. Every evening, she would sit down with her homework, glancing over at Zodic as he played with his toys. He was no longer the helpless creature she had found in the rain, but now he needed her just as much as ever. It wasn't always easy. There were days when schoolwork piled up, when Anna felt too tired to care for him properly. There were moments when she just wanted to forget about the responsibilities and have a break. But Zodic couldn't be ignored. He relied on her for everything now, and she couldn't let him down. Sometimes, the responsibility felt overwhelming. But every time Zodic climbed into her lap, curling up against her and purring contentedly, Anna knew it was all worth it. One afternoon, after a long day of school, Anna was sitting on the couch. Zodic nestled in her lap as she tried to get through some reading. She looked up and saw her dad standing in the doorway of the living room, his arms crossed over his chest. He had always been the most skeptical about Zodic. At first, he had voiced his concerns about having another animal in the house, especially one that had been abandoned. But Anna had stayed persistent. She showed him how much Zodic had already grown, how much he had changed since that first rainy day. Slowly, her dad had come around. His resistance had softened, though he had still kept his distance from the kitten, unsure of how to connect with him. That afternoon, Anna watched as her dad slowly stepped closer to the couch. He stopped a few feet away and looked down at Zodic, who was happily purring in her lap. Anna held her breath, unsure of what would happen next. To her surprise, Her dad bent down slowly, reaching out his hand toward the little kitten. Zodic, always curious, looked up and mewed softly, then nudged his head toward her dad's fingers. The kitten was so trusting, so full of innocence. Anna couldn't help but feel a surge of happiness. Her dad smiled, a soft, reluctant smile that tugged at his lips. "He's not so bad," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "You've done a good job with him, Anna." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what she had expected, but hearing her dad say that, in his own quiet way, meant more to her than anything. It wasn't just that he had accepted Zodic. It was that he had acknowledged her efforts. He had seen how much work she had put into caring for the kitten, and that recognition was everything to her. "Thanks, Dad," Anna said softly, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. It was a small moment, but it was a victory. It felt like the first step toward full acceptance. Slowly, over time, her dad began to show more affection for Zodic. He would occasionally scratch behind the kitten's ears when he came into the living room, and on weekends, he would help clean out the litter box without any complaint. It wasn't that he was suddenly a cat lover, but it was clear that he had grown fond of the little creature. As for Anna's mom, she was still cautious. At first, she had only agreed to let Zodic stay in the house until he recovered, but that was about it. She fed him when Anna asked her to, but there was always a sense of distance. She never seemed fully comfortable with the idea of a permanent pet in the house. However, something had changed. After a few weeks, Anna began to notice that her mom would occasionally slip a little extra food into Zodic's bowl. When she thought no one was looking, she would even pet him gently when he came to her for attention. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a sign that her mom was starting to warm up to the idea of Zodic being a part of the family. One evening, as Anna was preparing to go to bed, she found her mom standing in the kitchen, looking out the window. Zodic was playing near the door, chasing after a small ball of yarn Anna had left out. Her mom turned to her, a thoughtful expression on her face. "So," her mom said, breaking the silence, "what are we going to do with him now?" Anna froze, her mind racing. It wasn't a question she had been prepared for. What did her mom mean by that? Was she asking if they should keep him? Or was she asking if they were going to take him to the shelter? Anna's heart skipped a beat. Her mom looked at her, as though she could sense the sudden panic in her daughter's eyes. Then, her expression softened. I see how much you care about him. He's part of the family now, isn't he?" Anna felt a rush of relief. "Yeah," she whispered, "he's family." Her mom smiled gently, though there was a slight hesitation in her eyes. "Well then, I suppose we'll figure out what's next, won't we?" Anna couldn't believe what she was hearing. It was more than she had ever hoped for. It wasn't just acceptance. It was a quiet understanding that Zodic had become a part of their lives, and they were all better for it. As Anna went to bed that night, she felt a sense of contentment she had never known before. Zodic was no longer the fragile kitten she had found on that rainy street. He was a lively, playful, and loved member of their family. And the best part, he trusted her. He had learned to trust her, and she had learned to trust herself as a pet owner. They had both come so far, and yet there was still so much more to discover together. To be continued. Chapter 9. The Final Decision. The days leading up to the conversation were filled with nervous anticipation. Anna couldn't help but feel a weight settle on her chest every time she thought about it. It had been several weeks since she'd found Zodic, and the bond between them had only grown stronger. The little kitten had transformed into a playful, curious, and affectionate companion. And Anna couldn't imagine her life without him anymore. Every morning, Zodic would curl up beside her as she did her homework, his tiny purrs filling the room with comfort. In the evenings, he would follow her around the house, meowing when he wanted attention, and nuzzling into her lap when he was ready for a nap. He had become a part of the family in a way that Anna had never expected. It wasn't just that he had been saved from the streets, it was that he had become a source of joy, a constant reminder of the power of compassion and care. Anna was already in the kitchen when her parents arrived home that evening, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew it was time to talk to them, to ask them the one question she had been holding back for so long. Zodic's been with us for a while now, Anna began hesitantly, trying to gauge her parents' mood as they entered the room. Her mom raised an eyebrow, and Anna quickly added, "And he's getting so much better. He's healthy now, he's happy, and he's a part of our family." Anna could see her mom's expression soften, but there was a hint of concern behind her eyes. "I know you've done a lot for him, Anna," her mom said gently. "But you have to understand that taking care of a pet is a big responsibility. It's not just about playing with him or feeding him. It's about making sure he's cared for every single day, through the good times and the hard ones." Anna nodded, understanding the gravity of her mom's words. She had thought long and hard about the commitment it would take to care for Zodic. It wasn't just about the joy he brought her, it was about the work, the patience, and the responsibility. She knew that, and she was ready. "I know," Anna said quietly, meeting her mom's gaze. "But I'm ready to take care of him. I'll do whatever it takes. I've been feeding him, cleaning up after him, making sure he gets his medicine when he needs it. I'll make sure he's always happy and safe. I've learned so much over the past few weeks." Her dad, who had been listening quietly, spoke up then. "It's not just about feeding him though. You need to be sure that you're willing to take on this responsibility long term. A pet isn't something you can just have for a few weeks and then forget about. He'll need you every single day." Anna's heart sank, but she quickly pushed her fears aside. "I promise. I'll take care of him forever. I love him. And I'll make sure he's never alone again." Her parents exchanged a look, and for a moment, Anna felt as if her heart might stop beating. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Zodic, of seeing him go to another family or a shelter. He had become too important to her, and she couldn't imagine life without him. Finally, her mom smiled, a smile Anna hadn't expected. It wasn't wide or overly excited, but it was warm, understanding. She reached out and touched Anna's shoulder. "All right, Anna," she said softly, her voice full of love and acceptance. "I think we're ready to make it official." Anna's heart soared. "You mean, we can keep him?" Her mom nodded. "Yes, we can keep him. But you have to promise me that you'll continue to care for him, that you'll make sure he's always taken care of, no matter what. He's your responsibility now, Anna. You're the one who's been there for him from the start." Anna's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were tears of joy. "I promise, Mom. I'll take care of him forever." As her parents watched her, a smile tugged at the corners of her dad's mouth. "Well, I guess that means we have a cat now," he said with a hint of amusement in his voice. Anna laughed, her heart swelling with happiness. "Yeah, I guess we do." Her mom chuckled, shaking her head. "I never thought I'd see the day." Anna leaned over and scooped Zodic up, holding him close to her chest. He squirmed for a moment, but then settled into her arms, purring contentedly. She looked at her parents, her heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for letting me keep him." Her mom gave her a gentle hug. "You've earned it, Anna. You've worked hard for him. You've shown us how much you care, and we're proud of you." Anna smiled as she looked down at the little kitten in her arms. She had done it. She had saved him, and now he was hers. Forever. She could already imagine the countless memories they would create together in the years to come. And so, in that moment, Anna made a promise to herself and to Zodic. She would always take care of him, always be there for him, just as he had been there for her when she needed him most. To be continued. Chapter 10. A new member of the family. Zodic had fully recovered. His once fragile body was now healthy, strong, and filled with energy. No longer did he lie motionless, but instead, he bounced around the house, chasing after anything that moved: strings, toy mice, even his own tail. His tiny paws seemed to never stop as he pounced and leaped in playful joy. Every day, Anna would watch him with pride, feeling a warm sense of accomplishment knowing she had saved him, nursed him back to health, and given him a home filled with love. She had come to realize that this little creature had changed her life in ways she had never imagined. It wasn't just the joy he brought her, or the companionship he offered when she felt lonely, but the lessons he had taught her about patience, responsibility, and love. She had saved his life, yes, but in doing so, she had found a deeper understanding of herself and the world around her. One Saturday afternoon, as the sun peeked through the clouds, Anna's dad walked into the living room carrying a bag from the pet store. A wide grin spread across his face as he knelt down to unpack it. "I thought Zodic might like some new toys," he said, holding up a colorful bowl with bells inside it and a little feathered wand. "Also, we got him a proper food bowl. He deserves the best, after all." Anna's eyes sparkled as she watched him set everything down. The toys were exactly what Zodic would love. Bright, interactive, and bound to keep him entertained for hours. Anna felt a wave of gratitude for her dad. His initial reluctance to accept the little kitten had melted away, and now he was fully invested in making sure Zodic felt at home, just like the rest of the family. She sat down beside the kitten and gently placed the new bowl in front of him. Zodic sniffed at it cautiously, then licked the edges, his small nose twitching in delight. Anna giggled, watching as he eagerly dug into his food. She stroked his soft fur, feeling the weight of his little body in her lap. Her dad sat beside her, watching the scene unfold. "You've done well, Anna. I know we weren't sure about keeping him at first, but he's really become a part of the family." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with love. "I couldn't have done it without all of you. He's not just my responsibility anymore. He's all of ours." And it was true. Zodic had become a full-fledged member of the family, just as much as Anna, her parents, and her little brother. Even her mom, who had been the most hesitant about keeping the kitten, had warmed to him over the past weeks. She would often find herself spoiling Zodic with treats or calling him over for a cuddle after a long day. It seemed as though the kitten had worked his way into her heart just as he had into Anna's. As Anna looked at her family, she couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude. They had accepted Zodic, supported her in her decision, and come to love him as much as she did. Together they had become a team, and that gave Anna a sense of peace. She had learned that with love and care, even the most fragile beings could thrive. Later that evening, as the rain began to fall outside, Anna curled up on the couch with Zodic nestled comfortably in her arms. The sound of the rain tapping against the windows was soothing, a comforting reminder of the day they had first met. It was as though the universe had conspired to bring them together, in that moment of vulnerability and uncertainty. Zodic purred contentedly, his tiny body rising and falling with each breath. Anna stroked his soft fur gently, feeling the warmth of his presence, the bond that had been formed between them. The little kitten had come into her life when she needed him the most, and in return, he had given her the gift of unconditional love. As she looked out the window, watching the rain fall steadily, Anna felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey together. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would always be there for Zodic, just as he had been there for her. "Thank you," Anna whispered to the kitten, her voice soft. "Thank you for choosing me." And in that moment, as the rain continued to pour, Anna realized that she had learned something important. That sometimes, the smallest creatures can change our lives in the most unexpected ways. Zodic had come into her world, and in doing so, he had taught her that love, patience, and kindness could heal even the deepest wounds. As the night wore on, Anna felt a sense of fulfillment and joy, knowing that her heart had found its place, just as Zodic had found his. Together, they were a family, united by a bond that would last forever. The rain continued to fall outside, a reminder of the stormy day when their paths had first crossed. But now, the storm had passed, and Anna knew that her heart would never be the same again. The little kitten, now fully healed and content, slept peacefully on her lap. The love they shared had made their lives brighter, and for that, Anna would be forever grateful. And as she drifted off to sleep, with Zodic resting soundly in her arms, Anna couldn't help but smile, knowing that their story was only just beginning. The end.